Welcome into this week's edition of Bullring Breakdown. We're going to recap May 10th, Saturday, May 10th, recap of the racing action at the Woodhull Raceway. That was brought to you by Superior Plus Propane, Blends Feed and Farm Supply, and Lad Road Auto. Terry Blends, a new Terry Pierce is with me. Forgot to introduce you. Uh,
That's all right,
um,
Will.
Terry, I'm guessing you'll be joining me for the majority of these recap shows. So I guess if you ever see the recap show, you'll know Terry's probably with me. So Blend's new sponsor this year. I'm not they're out of Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, out of Osceola, Pennsylvania. They're right over there by the Osceola Big M. Got a huge building right there. You can't miss them. And they just expanded, actually. Took on even more space in there. And yeah, it's a pretty big growing business. Everybody seems to go there for their feed, and they got clothing lines they have there. Yeah, everything. I mean, it's a pretty nice place to stop in. It's kind of like a Tractor Supply in the country, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Local,
And so Superior Plus Propane, they're located on 417 in Woodhull. They're pretty much I think your go-to propane dealer for I think they do everybody. Anybody that's got propane, they can help you out.
Yeah, they're actually a pretty big company too. That's
Mhm.
they're out of Dansville, I believe, and they have offices all over this area. They've
Right.
been a sponsor for quite a long time at Woodall. I can't exactly tell you how many years, but as long as I can remember, they've been a sponsor
Yep.
there. So
Yeah, me too. Lad Road Auto, they came on. They've got Lad Road Auto and Ken's Auto. One of them's located in Osceola and the other one's in
Westfield, I believe.
Westfield. Yep, you're
Yep.
right.
And they're
That's
that's a Yeah, so that's owned by Josh Stone. He's a competitor at Woodall, races in the hobby stocks, and has also fields a car in the front wheel drive or quad C's. And again, that's a small business. It's growing like crazy. He just bought another business. He bought Ken's Auto, and yeah, this was their first time ever sponsoring it with all. And I talked to them a little bit during the night, and they were having a great time. They absolutely loved it. So I
good.
believe they threw some frisbees out in the crowd, I believe, and gave away some
Yep.
stuff. And Blends did also, I believe. So
Yes, they did. Yep.
yeah,
Um, well, no, Wilkins RV, they also hopped on board. You told me they're teaming up with Pepsi. They're a Victory Lane sponsor, so nice to have them on board as well.
yes, yep. They decided to come on board, and they're going to sponsor Victory Lane for the year. Yeah, and we put a couple new signs on the infield. We had a couple new sponsors down there. JT Logging purchased a sign on the infield, and the other one was Twin Kiss, the ice cream place at Bath. Who doesn't like ice cream, right?
Fun fact. That's where I go every year after the Steuben County Fair when I run the demolition derby. I always stop
Yep.
at the Twin Kiss, or
There,
maybe
there you
before.
go.
Maybe I do it before. I can't remember.
You stop in there, you see Steve in there, he'll hook you right up.
All right, I will. Um, well, I guess that pretty much covers all that fun stuff. And I'll tell you, Terry, one thing I could tell you for sure is this week, you could tell it was a full moon.
Oh, that's for sure. No doubt about that.
We
No doubt.
few classes had some trouble getting going, and we had a pretty stacked card as it was. And
Actually, Joe, let's for just for a second before we start that, let's talk about the track a little bit.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
that's good. You better talk about that.
yeah, so I met with Terry and Nikki earlier in the day, and we kind of discussed our game plan. We got the grader on there on Friday night. We were able to finally, for the first time, get the grader on. I mean, the track was in pretty good shape all week. I mean, it actually rode the weather pretty good, really. But we were couldn't get on it until Friday night. Finally got the grader on there, tore it up a little bit, started putting some water to it, and and again, there's a huge science to this whole thing with the racetrack. But we decided we knew we had two options here. Either the track was going to be really dry, it was going to be dusty and slick, but the track would hold together, or it could go the other way, and the moisture could start coming up out of the track from the whole week, and we could end up with ruts and then get into some crappy racing where the cars just can't get around the corners. So although it was dusty, but that's something that Woodhull don't normally see. Woodhull don't see dust very often. So we did, but you know what? The track was nice. It was a dry, slick track, and a lot of drivers loved that. And the track held together nice. So we had
Yeah,
to
well,
take a
I
little
think
time at intermission.
I was gonna say I think putting water on at intermission was really the I think that really helped because I don't know if that track would have stayed together without the water. And I know that with as much as we had going on and as late of a night as it was getting, I know that putting water on the track isn't what every fan wants to see. When it's getting late and
Right.
we had a great crowd. So when they
We
come out
did.
and it's getting late and then they see you put water down, I know they didn't like it, but I don't know if you really had an option the way that the track was going.
Right.
So,
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
um, well, I guess we can get into the heat races now, unless you got anything else for me.
No, go ahead. We're good with this.
All right. Again, I didn't really write down too much for these things. I just kind of wrote down who won, and we could take it from there. So, Carter Crooker, first time out in his car, and actually, we had two guys with their first time out in their new car. Carter Crooker, Aiden Grover, both picked up heat wins. Aiden Grover took over the Josh Kesey ride, driving for Bill Dominic. So they're off to a pretty good start. And Carter Crooker, he moved up from a sportsman, raced outlaw last year, and a sportsman moved up to a modified. So he had a pretty good night, and so
There's definitely a lot of talent right there in them two drivers. I'm excited to see where them two drivers are going to go this year. I mean, Aiden has definitely got a very fast car underneath him right now, and and I think he's going to be able to get it done. And Crooker, I mean, he's always right there no matter what he's driving. So you know what, yeah, between the two of those, it's going to be interesting this year. That's for sure.
right, Carter Crooker drove most of last year with the Herbie Wright backup car.
Yep.
So then we welcomed in the CRSA 305 Sprint Tour. They always do a fantastic job. 26 of them. Uh, they came out in full force. So I want to give credit to the sprint guys and gals. Um, so I maybe we should ask Marty to come on. Marty probably knows a little bit more about these than we do.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
so what's that?
them guys did a great job too, an awesome job. They showed up, and like you said, we had 26 cars there. That's pretty good for a sprint car race on a Saturday night, for a traveling series. I think I know that we did have some guys from Pennsylvania come, and we had some guys from there was a guy from Canada that was there, and a bunch from upstate New York that were coming to test the waters for our big September show. And normally we don't run only 24 cars in the feature because the track just isn't big enough. We ended up with 26 cars. That was either send two cars home or let them race. So what we did was we put in a little extra money in there, pay them extra two drivers, and let them race rather than send them home. We wanted them to get a chance to experience it, and it turned out great. They put on an awesome show. They really did.
Yeah, well, I can. The other thing too, when you look at how late the night went, I don't think anybody wanted to sit through a consi where we're sending two guys home. You know.
Right? Yeah. No. Definitely. Yep.
So then we'll go to the sportsman. Dale Welty, Kenny Peoples Jr. They both picked up the wins. Two veterans. They're tough to beat in sportsmen at Woodhull. And then the IMCA, they made their first race of under the sanction. So this is the first of 5 times that we'll have them in 2025. Keith Lamphere, he picked up the heat win. Sean Bruce, he picked up the heat win. Then moving on to you know what? I forgot all the class sponsors, but I guess I'll hit them in the feature rundown. But luckily for Joe, I
Right.
remembered the Joe Wilcox Performance Automatic Street Stocks before I read that one off. So Glenn Reitner, he was driving for Brian Butler in that 15B. He picked up the heat race win. Tony Harris, he picks up the win. Then the Lad Road Auto Hobby Stocks, Brian Austin and Brandon Conklin. Then we had 20 quad C, so a good showing from them too. Actually, I think all the classes had a pretty good showing. I think we had 18 sportsmen. So the quad C, Chris Woodard picked up the heat win, Nate Freeland and Blake Snyder. So you got anything for your heat winners?
I don't really. I mean, it was, yeah, we had a dash for cash in there also. Don't forget.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it was some pretty good racing throughout the night right there. And them heat races, all of them were pretty decent races. So
right. Yep. So then we get to the dashes. I know Tommy Moreau, he picked up the CRSA dash, and I probably should have looked, but I don't know the actual. I think it's to determine spots, what, 9 through, what would it be, 14? starting spot, something.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'm not exactly sure how they do that, to be honest with you.
Right. But it's a dash, and they win some money, but it's a dash to set the middle of the line, middle of the field, and
Hmm.
past your redraw cars and all that. And I think they might actually go by passing points. So, um, and then we had the Ted Morseman Senior Memorial Dash for Cash. Uh, Chris Woodard, he ended the reign of the Morsemans. Two for two the Morsemans were this year. Chris Woodard, he won it.
He did.
Um,
That Chris Woodard has definitely got a fast four cylinder. That Mustang
yeah,
is pretty fast, and
yeah.
and I don't remember, it was that Bradley that was in the 44. Or
Hmm,
he
hmm.
was right there too. I mean, yeah, Bradley wasn't letting him get too far ahead. So
Yeah, because I was picking on Teddy because it was his birthday, and I told him that his son wouldn't let him run the mini stock for his dad's memorial during his on his birthday, and he said, "Well, it was his turn. I guess they switch every year." So he said it
all
was
right.
his turn, and Bradley didn't want to give it up. So I don't blame him. Bradley's a racer, and he wants to race as many times as he can. So
Oh yeah, neither one of them, both of them could get it done. So I don't think it matters which one was behind the wheel. That car is fast too, and
no.
yeah, they battled to the end.
Um, let's see here. Then we went. What did we do then? Then we went to intermission. So in intermission, we did a little track prep. We awarded our Southern Tier Customs Driver of the Week. That went to Courtney Thomas. Courtney Thomas back in April. I should have looked up the date, but I think the second Saturday in April, she picked up her first win of her career.
Yep, April 19th.
So she was the Southern Tier Custom Driver of the Week. And then I think one of the headlines of the or one of the real takeaways from the show on Saturday was Jarek. I don't know if you listening at intermission.
I don't know. I don't think I was. I don't think I was
So
down there at that time.
so Jarek was he's a 3 year old and he won the fan of the week. And usually when I go down there and I'm trying to interview these kids and they don't want to talk or nothing. And he was all about it. He was all excited and he was pumped and he was telling me go Teddy go and he was excited. He picked Teddy Morseman was his favorite driver, so that was awesome to see and I think all the fans thought he was probably the cutest thing they'd ever seen.
That's great. That's what it's all about, right there. Is to
Right.
bring these kids in for this stuff. And I'll tell you, we changed it to the Woodhull fan, but I'll tell you what, there's still kids there every week that want to be a part of it, and it's great to see them be a part of it.
Right. Um, am I missing anything about intermission here? Is that
I don't think so. I think that's it. I mean, I know we worked the track a little bit, trying to get a little bit more moisture in it at that time. Um,
hmm
Yeah, and we did. I think it helped. Definitely helped. It probably could have used a little bit more water, but you run out of time, and plus you can't get too much water on there at a time because, as you've seen, we had to bring the modifieds out and try to let them work the track in a little bit with their big tires and get some heat in the track. And but when they did, boy, then it had some bite. Then it was ready to go.
right? So I guess we can go into our features. The modifieds kicked it off. Dayton Brewer, he started on up front. He held off Russell Morseman for a little while. And then Stacy Jackson just made his way through the back of the field, or through, well, I think he started sixth, but made his way towards the front. And then it's kind of a theme that you're gonna run into here as we keep going. After a caution, Stacy Jackson takes over on the restart, and then I mean, that car seemed to be on a rail. He kind of seemed to be the class of the field.
Here's a little fun fact about that car. He's got the only Ford motor in the class, is what I've heard. I don't know for a fact. I haven't talked to Stacy, but that was the rumor I heard the other night was he got his motor back. It's a big Ford motor, and yeah, he put a whooping on the rest of them guys out there. He did. Early on, I thought Dayton Brewer looked like he was solid. That car was hooked up, and I thought, boy, he's going to be tough to beat, and he was. He was tough to beat for a long time there. Dayton's got it figured out, and I'm sure the wins are going to come for Dayton this year too. I'm sure. But
Yeah, you know, I asked the Harrington crew went down there. They own Stacy's car, and I asked Kim if she was going to do a backflip in front of the grandstands for her car's finishing 1-2. She said no, she didn't want to do that. So
really, we're gonna have to talk to her more about this, I
I know
guess.
if they're going to keep going 1-2. But
Right?
so Stacy Jackson, he picks up his first win in 2025 for the Insinger Performance Modified. Jake Ginn second, Brady Foltz is third, fourth is Dayton Brewer. and fifth was Carter Crooker.
I,
So
I tell you, I tell you another little thing about Stacy. So when he went out in the heat, Stacy broke his transmission broke, and I, I'm not 100% sure exactly what went on with it. But after that, he was holding it in gear. I believe he was holding it in gear that whole modified race. He struggled with that transmission the whole race, and still that car was just so fast, so hooked up.
right. So I guess we could go to the Warriors. The Warriors. Isabella Morseman, she hopped in uh the well, I guess the Teddy Morseman ride.
Yep,
And she picked up her first win of the year. She picked up a feature win last year, but I think she watched her brother win about 12 of them one year. And then she
right. Yep.
finally got one this last year, and then she's back on the board this year. So that's always good to see.
Right, and that was pretty nice of Teddy and Katrina to allow her to get in that car and yeah, and take it out and actually run it. That was pretty nice of them. They are cousins, related and everything, but that was pretty nice of them to give her the opportunity to do it, get out there and race.
Yep, absolutely. Um, so we'll just go through that field. Caden Thomas was second, Courtney Thomas third, and then Matthew Freeman. I know that's the running order. I know that Jason Warner's son, I think he was gonna run, but I think with the maybe with it being dark out, I don't know. I'm just assuming, but I don't know. Maybe Jason didn't want to put him in the race car at night for the first time. I'm not really sure, but I know that he was scheduled to race and he didn't go out, so I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of maybe assuming that he didn't want him to race for the first time, dark and on a slick track after the modifieds. Just,
Right? Yeah, that could be. Yep.
just a hunch. So then we'll go to the CRSA. This was, I would say this was probably the the greenest of the races.
Right. Absolutely.
Uh, to put it nicely to the some of the other divisions. So Paulie Coli he led to start the race. The caution came out on lap 5, and Timmy Lotz took the lead on the restart. On that restart, Carter Hutton, I think he restarted fifth, was able to move up to second, and then it didn't take him long, and he got by Lotz to take the lead. Dylan Paddock had moved his way up to second. Lap 18, he pulls a slide job on Jordan Hutton, takes away the lead. And then there's a yellow on lap 20. There's my dog. uh, Yellow on lap 20. Uh, Paddock still able to hold him off on a restart. Caution on lap 22. And then Paddock green the rest of the way. Dylan Paddock able to hold him off. Picked up the win for the CRSA Sprint Tour. Paddock won, Jordan Hutton second, Mikey Smith third, Zach Zabaka, who I think started maybe 24th or 25th,
He
was
was way
drove
back
up to
there.
fourth, and then Timmy Lotz fifth. So that's your top
Yeah.
five for them.
I'll tell you, this Dylan Paddock, man, he put on a show. He really did. If you look at Jordan Hutton knows how to get around Woodhull. That car is fast, and he's been there a couple times. He knows what he's doing. And Jordan Hutton, it doesn't take him long to get to the front. For the way that Dylan Paddock went by him, and Dylan really had that car hooked up. But you got to talk about the other one, the Sabata. Uh, he
Sabaka.
came from the Sabaka. He came from the back, and I'll tell you what, you give him another 5 laps, he'd have been up there because that car was coming. He was fast. He was hooked up, and he was moving. He was moving forward fast.
Right. I went over to Outlaw on the first weekend that they raced because we weren't racing. And I kind of getting the itch, after a long winter. And I went up to the booth and I talked to Marty up there, the announcer for CRSA,
Right?
Marty Sakala, and he said that that's something that he's really interested in watching is Zach Sabaka because I think he's running full time for the CRSA. So he was
Yeah.
really excited to see him hopping into a sprint car and seeing what he could do with a full season. And he sure did impress. He drove all the way from the back in a 25 lap feature, and you know, it's pretty hard to do.
Yes, and he's coming out of a Crate Sportsman, I believe, right? That's what he used to
Hmm.
drive a Crate Sportsman, and I believe and I could be off on this a little bit, but I think just a couple years ago, their shop caught on fire, burnt to the ground, and they lost all their race cars, I believe, and they started rebuilding back, and he was back in the Crate Sportsman, and I think he just decided to move up, and he looks at these sprint cars must be jumped in, and I'll tell you what, he's not lacking for talent in a sprint car because he had her hooked up and was moving.
Yeah, and I think he's won just about everything that you can win with a sportsman. I don't know
Yeah,
about all the prestigious races, but he's won a lot.
yeah,
So,
yep.
um, well, Terry, I don't know if you want to go here, but next up we had the hometown excavation crate sportsman. So, Jared Green, Jacob Trowbridge, they start on the front row. Jared Green leads. This was I trying not to be mean to anybody here, but this was full of yellows.
It
This
was definitely it was
this
a
was
tough race to watch. That's for
yeah,
sure.
this was a war of attrition. I talked to Kyle Leach and he had a lot of damage, and I think he might have been one that ended up towards the front of the field, you know?
All right. Yep,
Um,
he did. Yep, he did. Yeah, it was a tough race to watch. That's for sure. These guys were everybody. It seemed like they were all trying to win it on the first lap, and they didn't let up. They didn't. I don't know. It just seemed like there was a little bit of lack of respect out there for other drivers for some. And yeah, it's just it's tough when it's like that.
Yeah, I know Dale Welty said that his brother was well, I saw it on Facebook. He said his brother worked all night trying to bang everything back into place, and he had a bunch of broken stuff. And like I said, Kyle Leach had a bunch of broken stuff. Kenny Beeples had a bunch of broken stuff. So it
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's never fun when these guys tear up these cars. There's a lot of money involved in these cars, and to tear them up like that is just it's sad to see. It really is. These guys spend a lot of time, a lot of money on their cars, and they spend a lot of time making them look good. And then they come out there at a race like that they just can't seem to get going or green, and just equipment gets torn up, and it's sad to see.
yeah. And none of them are, at least to my knowledge, none of them are millionaires, you know. They
Right?
so
Yeah. No.
and
Absolutely.
it's got to be hurting their pocketbook and so, but you know, that's I guess we'll move on from there. Just keep in mind that throughout this entire race, there's pretty much a yellow, what every 3 4 laps it seemed like.
Yeah.
Uh, so on lap 3, Tim Guild he took the lead. Well, then the caution comes out for Tim Guild. So then Blake Parsons he takes over the lead. Then I'll tell you what, Blake Parsons and Jared Green, who moved back up to second after Guild dropped out, they had one heck of a race really for the one heck of a race for the win. Blake Parsons led, but Jared Green never really let him get too far away from him. It was a pretty good race once we got some green flag laps.
Yeah, it definitely was. That's for sure. And both them drivers have so much talent, and for being new to Woodhull, they both look very good, both of them. I mean, they both had fast cars, and yeah, there was a lot of talent there between them. That's for sure.
Um, so Parsons ends up winning, but then DQ'd. Blake Parsons get disqualified. A family member threw something down on the racetrack, so
Yeah,
DQ'd
I,
for
I
that.
can talk a little bit about that, Joe, if you want. I'm going to try to sum this up the best of my knowledge, the best that I can. Okay. So to start with myself, I'm on the infield. Okay. And that's where I am every week. I'm watching the races from the infield. Um, at this particular time, I happen to be down in turn 4. Okay. And at this time, I get a phone call and I'm on the phone, and apparently there's a fight that breaks out in the grandstands, which, I mean, Saturday night, we're there to have fun. There's kids up there. This stuff doesn't need to be happening. Well, our security and plus there was a couple staff members that were there and kind of witnessed the whole thing. Um, Probably nothing would have happened. I mean, probably the fighters would have got yelled at, got broke it up, the normal stuff you do when there's a fight at the racetrack. But when somebody throws some debris onto the racetrack, onto the racing surface when we're trying to race, that becomes a serious safety hazard as far as I'm concerned. Now, as far as fans in the stands, I don't have a lot to do with that, but I do have a lot to do with our race car drivers and our track. And when you throw something on the track, then we confronted the guy, or I didn't, they did, our track officials did. And he stated several times that in fact, he was with Blake Parsons' crew, or he was with their team, and that he was in fact an uncle, I believe, is all it was said. And next thing I know, Nikki's telling me that I talked to Nikki, and Nikki's like, I want him disqualified. Um, I want him pulled up. We're not going to tolerate this. We can't tolerate this. We can't let this happen. We can't let people think it's okay to throw debris on the track. Anybody could get hurt. He could throw that and not get over the track and hit a little kid walking down at the bottom of the stands, or he could throw it on the track and a race car could run over and throw it up in the air and catch the driver behind him. There's just so many options that could happen. We can't let that happen. Right or wrong call, whether Woodhull made the right call the other night on this, you know what? At the end of the day, it's a safety issue, and I don't like it, and I don't like it. I don't like it for Blake because I think Blake's a great driver. I like Blake. I wish it didn't happen, but it did. Okay, and it's over with now. I do feel bad for Blake, but again, we can't allow this stuff to happen. We have to stop it now. We can't let that stuff go on, and that's what we did. And I get it. He's not happy, and I understand that. I understand why he's not happy, but again, you know, if it was a fan in the stands, it probably would have been totally different. We can't control who wears whose clothes and what driver they support. We can't hold the driver responsible for that. But he made it quite clear who he was, where he was with, who he was with, and all that. And, at the end of the day, something had to be done. We had to set precedent so that this does not happen again.
Right. And it
Nobody wants to see it. We don't want to see nobody get hurt.
Right, and it's not the first time somebody's been DQ'd for throwing something on the racetrack. And I personally, for me, I don't see the difference as if you're in a grandstands or the pit area. I know if it, like you said, if it's a fan, that's completely one thing. But I think once he made it clear, and we've just so everybody knows that if you listen, we have officials all throughout the racetrack. We have people that listen and watch everything all the time. And we're gonna know. For everybody saying that you can go put a Kenny Peoples t-shirt on and go throw something on the racetrack and get them DQ'd, we can see what happened. It's not something that just happened that one time. It was from what I understood throughout the night, and it he made it clear. So it sucks, and I'm sick for Blake too because I like Blake. I worked over at Outlaw all last year. I talked to Blake. I think he's a great kid, and I was sick for him too. Terry, you got me?
I got you. I'm back.
All right, I think I dropped. I'm not sure where we I'm not sure who got kicked. I'm not sure where we left off, but I was sick for Blake too because he's a good kid and we'll leave it at that. So, Jared Green, he picked up the win and that's a very rare appearance. I think he came with the 600 modifieds back earlier or back last season. I know he tries to come, but I know he runs Afton a lot. Uh Let's see. Todd Titus was second, Brandon Morseman third, Blake Lawson fourth, and then Tim Guild rebounded early caution for fifth. Anything that you want to touch on there, or you ready to move on?
Yeah, I think we could move on. I don't, I think, we said what we had to say, and like I said, right or wrong, it's a decision that was made, and
Hmm.
we have no choice but to move forward from here, and hopefully this doesn't happen again. Hopefully we don't get stuck making decisions like this.
Right. All right. So next up we had the hey, we're having some technical difficulties here. First time this has
I
happened, but hey, that's okay.
I can hear the crew in the background working. I don't know what they got going on back there. I could hear a generator running, so I don't know if maybe there was a power issue or
Oh,
just what.
oh, you
But
think it
the
might be
crews are
on
definitely working on it.
me? So I guess we'll go to the IMCA's. This was another race that was I think it was a little less hard to watch than the Sportsman because I don't think they tore up as much equipment, but there is still cautions throughout this entire race. This is one that I can't lie to you, I did not really catch most of it. I was dealing with something else. Um, so John Lubeck called most of it, the guy in the tower with me, and he told me Keith Lamphere, he pretty much started up front and led it throughout, and there was just you know, cautions, but nobody had much for Keith. Restart after restart, he would just keep being the
Am I
class of the
am I
field.
wrong? Am I wrong on this, or didn't he win the last feature last year, Woodhull?
No, last year it was oh man, I know this too.
Hmm.
Last year It was. It might have
Maybe
been.
we should have that. Maybe we should have this as a trivia question.
It's
And the
actually
first person to call in could win something.
right. Who are you gonna call? You?
No, I was thinking we don't give out a number.
Yeah, that
I
might be the way to do it.
yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I don't remember. I guess.
Well, anyway, um, so Keith Lamphere, he picked up the win. Jacob Ingham, he was second. Third was Jacob McConnell. Fourth, Tyler Belcher, and fifth was Dalton Maynard. Hopefully, hopefully they had a pretty good crew with them. I hopefully we can build on that. I think they had 16 cars, which I think is pretty good for the IMCA's. I know that Jake Maynard, that's a class that he really wants to try to build up, and we're trying to get them back to where they could be relevant around here. And showing up with 16 cars week one's a pretty good start.
Oh, it definitely is. Jake has done a wonderful job at promoting that class. He really works hard to get these races lined up, and yeah, I think it's going to be a fun season for us to have him there. We look forward to the class growing and see where it goes.
Right. And there's something different. I do like having them on there because then every time they're there, we are dropping a regular class, so that does give them guys some time to do whatever they want to do, and it allowed our rush guys and I don't know if any of them took advantage to go over to run the rush race, but if they did, if they didn't, then they could have enjoyed a nice day out.
Right, right. Yeah, I believe Austin Allen actually went, and I think he did very well both nights, Saturday and Sunday night with the Rush Series. So,
Right.
I
I
believe.
know he made the redraw um the first night. I didn't really see what he did
Hmm.
Sunday. I wasn't paying too much attention.
Right, him and Bryce Davis, I know were both there, so they both went to both nights. So, yeah, good
And
for
I and,
them.
and I did find out who won the race for at
Oh, okay,
at
for the
Woodhull. So,
IMCA's.
yep. But that was actually Dalton Maynard. So
Oh, okay, okay. Hmm.
so let's see here. And then we got the street stocks, Joe Wilcox Performance Automatic Street Stocks. I mean, Glenn Reitner, he filled in for Brian Butler, who was on tow truck duty. We uh Butler, what is that? City View Towing, is that what his company
Yes.
is? And
Yep.
he helps us out. He runs the tow truck, and I think if he can't find somebody to run it for him, then he takes the night off of the steering wheel and he gets behind the wheel of the tow truck. So I think that's how it goes for him anyway. Um, so he
Yeah,
let
I think that's his plan for the whole season. I think he was talking about spending more time in the tow truck this year. I think so.
right,
Yeah, it's great to have him there. There's a lot of knowledge there. They are a big help to Woodhull Raceway. That's for
right.
sure.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if the street stock division wants to see that if he's going to let Glenn Reitner hop in his car because he started up front and boy, he had a fast car. Teddy Morseman gave him just about everything he could do, but Glenn just once again seemed to be the class of the field.
Yeah, for sure. And that car, it is a fast car too. I mean, and I believe that's Glenn's old car anyway. I
It
believe
is.
his last year's car. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he told me in Victory Lane that it was his old car, so it was familiar to him.
All right. Well,
So
that definitely helps.
right. So Glenn Reitner, he picks up his first one in 2025. The birthday boy, Teddy Morseman, he came in second. Chris Woodard, he ran double duty. He finished third. Fourth was Clinton McLean, and Luke Boom rounded out the top five. And it was good to see Luke Boom. I didn't get a chance to catch up with him, but it was nice to see him because I don't know if you saw his picture on Facebook of his house not too long ago, but
Oh yeah.
he had a tree come down and just about split it in half. So it was nice to see Luke back out on the racetrack, and I kind of wish that I would have went over and talked to him and see how he was doing, but I didn't get a chance to.
Right. And again, he's got a fast car this year too. That car looked really well out there.
Hmm. So we'll go to the hobby stocks. This is kind of these three were kind of all cut of the same cloth a little bit here. Brandon Conklin started up front, your 2024 track champion, finished runner up the first weekend out. He picks up his first win of 2025. That's in the Lad Road Auto Hobby Stocks. Dylan Phillip, who was your winner the first week, he was second. Scott Brown third. Fourth was Jason Warner. Fifth was Mike Palmer. So good run there for Mike Palmer.
Yeah, definitely. Those top two cars right there, they're class acts. Both them cars are so fast. But you can't leave out Brian Austin. That car has been fast both times out, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see him up there pretty quick. That car was
Yeah,
fast. I don't know exactly what happened to him. I know he broke at the end, but I think it was a ball joint or something, I believe, on his car that broke. But that car was fast up until that too.
right.
And I'm sure you're going to see him up there pretty soon. The wins will
I
come for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And you think at some point, I think Joe Birdsell is going to exercise his demons too, because he is, well, let's just say he's a little off the pace to start the year.
Yeah, he's actually he's been struggling with distributor problems, and I'm not sure that he's got it figured out yet. But I guess he's gone through a couple distributors. I think is what it was, and in the first 2 weeks out. So yeah, he's definitely got some gremlins he's trying to work through, and when he does, there's no doubt he'll be up there too. Yep.
Right. All right, we'll move on to the Wicked T Quad C. That was so Kaylee Morseman, she led a few laps. Kind of unfortunate for her. Cautions kept bunching the field up. She never really was able to get too far away. Uh, lap two, Tony Dickerson, he gets actually it was kind of funny because he showed his nose. I think he might have had a run on her in one and two, and she would move up to block him. Well, then in three and four, he showed her the nose in the same spot. She went up to block, and he went back down to the bottom. So I kind of wonder if that was a little bit of a older guy, doing a little setting up on the
Right.
young girl.
Yep. That's like a little cat and mouse.
Right. And after that, he was just he had a fast piece. He was the man to beat. So he picks up the win. Blake Snyder, he finished second. Who Blake Snyder, he's gonna win a feature this year.
Yeah.
Um, he's gonna win a
Yep.
feature
There's
this
no
year.
doubt that car's definitely he's got it hooked up. He's getting her figured out. That's for sure.
Right. And then Danielle Morseman, she finished third. She'll probably win a feature this year too. She always seems to be hanging there and she finds a couple by the end of the year.
Yep, no doubt. Consistency with her, she's just
Hmm.
consistent week in and week out.
Right.
Slowly makes her way to the front, and
Right.
and she's there at the end. She's there
I'll
when
say
it
I'll say
counts.
I'll say this if she chooses to run full time because I know that she was talking about maybe taking a step back and not running as much. So if she runs full time, she'll find her way in victory lane a few times. Um,
Right, right.
and then I'll you know what I'll say it. I went back and forth all day, but the cowboy boots wonder Dylan Kraft he finished fourth.
Yep.
And then Kaylee Morseman she finished fifth, and that's her second top five in three races in the adult division. So. And she's a Morseman too. They've all got bright futures. You
Yep.
know,
All right.
they've all won a lot of races or they're gonna win a lot of races, one of the two.
All right. They do. Yep. For sure.
I well, Terry, I think that's the recap. I do want to thank Superior Plus Propane Blends Feed and Farm Supply again, Lads Road Auto. Anything else you got?
Yeah, actually, there is. I wanted to talk about something really quick. Okay, so I just kind of I heard this. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and I kind of got an idea, and I kind of want to run it by some people and just kind of see what the thoughts are on this. And each week we have an issue with people jumping the start. Okay, each week we're calling people back, whether the leader, the leader starts the race. Okay, and whether the leader, lays back a little bit and lets the outside guy jump the start, or the outside guy just jumps the start. Every week it seems to be an issue. So this guy brought something up to me. What if so like right now we make it so that the leader starts the race. Okay, when they're coming out of turn 4 and they get to the cone, the leader starts the race. The race does not start until the leader fires. What if we change that up? What if we made it the front row starts the race, the front row fires? Okay, now here's the deal. You both got to fire at the same time at the cone. If you don't, then it's not official restart and the front row goes to the rear. Okay, so now you don't get drivers that lay back to let the other one jump to start, or you don't get that outside guy that wants to jump to start. They want to work together because they don't want to get sent to the back. So they want to work together. And I kind of thought about that all day, and I thought about it today, and I'm like, I kind of like this idea. I don't know if it would ever fly. I don't know if it would ever work at Woodhull, but I'd kind of like to hear some feedback onto it and kind of see what people thought about it.
You know what
Might
I
be
think?
something a little different.
You know what I think about it? I
Yeah.
think you're gonna love it if you're second, and you're gonna hate it if you're first.
Well, I don't know. I mean, really, they'd have to work together to start the race,
Right,
and maybe we would get less restarts, or people jumping the start if they had to work together. And you
right.
you definitely get rid of a lot of this sandbagging, so to speak, from the leader who doesn't fire at the cone and lets the outside guy go, and then gets called back. So I don't know. Just a thought. Maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, drivers, you can reach out and say what you think.
Yeah,
Ter-
definitely, definitely.
Terry's taking phone calls all night.
That wouldn't be anything unnormal. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and I guess another thing I do want to touch on before we get out of here is I do want to touch on what we got coming up in next week, this week, May 17th. That's our Salute to Law Enforcement, Fire, and EMS. That's sponsored by Hubertus Service Station and Ken's Collision. One of my favorite nights of the year. We've got the NY 600 Sprint Tour. They're coming, and like I said, one of my favorite nights of the year. We get fire trucks, ambulances, police cars out there, and kind of the least we can do for people that maybe in this world seem like they're a little bit more disrespected than most of us think they should be. But the least we can do for our first responders.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a helicopter coming in too. Don't forget that.
Well,
So light.
I was letting you say that.
Okay, all right. So yes, LightNet has they have offered to fly in, and they're going to come in about believe I think it's 4 or 4:30. I can't remember which. I guess we'll have to watch Facebook for times, but yeah, they've offered to fly in, land. They're gonna talk to people, let you look at the helicopter, that kind of stuff, and hopefully we're gonna have a big turnout with fire trucks. I know Woodhull is gonna be there. I know Addison is planning on being there, Addison Fire Department, and I heard that Wallace Fire Department is gonna be there, and I'm sure there's a lot more that'll show up. I'm sure. EMS, they all get in free with the proper ID. You got to have a card from your fire department to get when you're a member. If you can display that card, you're going to get in for free. So it ought to be a fun night for the kids. Get to see the fire trucks and all that. We'll have them on display. I think most of the night they're on display out back usually. So
Yeah, and that life net thing that is weather pending, and if they don't get a call too. So.
yes, that's
I do
correct.
want to mention that things can come up that will take them away from, it's not a guaranteed thing that we are going to get them, but watch Facebook and we'll be in contact, and I'll be putting things out all morning and make sure that people know if it's not going to come.
Yes, that's correct. I believe they only have one crew on at a time. So I believe if there's a call somewhere, then they won't be there. Or if a call comes in while they're there, they'll probably have to leave for that. So yeah, I mean, we hope. Last year they were there. It was a great day. It was a nice, beautiful day for them, and the kids loved it. I see they were lined up. You'll get to see Woodhull Fire Department will be there setting up a landing zone to land this helicopter, which is really interesting to see. Yeah, so get out there early next week. Make sure you're there early to be able to see this stuff.
Right. And yeah, and not only that, but like I said, this is just one of my favorites because I do, the little bit that we can do for these people that are, the first ones there when we don't want to be. So we thank them for all they do, and, the little bit that we can do for them.
That's correct. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, so that's next week. As this gets moving, as the season goes on, we can get more into points. The modifieds have only had one race, so your top five is your top five in points. I don't really feel the need to really touch on the points at this point. Maybe in a few weeks we'll get a little more headway. One bad night kind of ruins it right now, and it doesn't really show the full story. So I just don't really feel the need to really dive into the points quite yet. So in a couple of weeks we'll start looking at that stuff and pulling that out. But Terry, you got anything else?
No, I think that's about it for me.
All right, well, Terry, I appreciate you making time. Kind of a late evening here on Monday. Both got busy with Mother's Day and your mom's birthday today. So, happy birthday to uh, Mrs. Pierce. And
That's right. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. I have to say happy birthday to my mother today. That's for sure. She
I,
puts up
I
with
I do
anything I want.
appreciate you making time for us. So,
Right.
once
Absolutely.
again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. This edition of Bullring Breakdown. Please like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Rate it 5 stars. Give it a download. Downloads help a lot on the ratings. Like us on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Like the video on YouTube. We're on TikTok at Woodhull 64. Also at Facebook at Woodhull Raceway. So thank you very much. I appreciate you all listening, and we'll see you.